Everybody back for Thursday's live stream, and I want to talk about something that I think is one of the most important aspects of future leaders. And when I say future leaders in the future of leadership, yes, I'm talking about our emerging professionals who are going to be leaders in the future. But in this context, I'm meaning the future of leadership in that we all need to adapt as senior leaders, as more human leaders when we talk about the future of leadership. And I know that that is a buzzwordy phrase for AI and tech, but you guys know it as well as I do. If you're looking between the lines and even hearing some of the things that leaders are talking about of, I wish we could go back to a time without social media, and this is what it's going to look like if we keep going down the tech route. You guys, the best thing that has happened with AI, sure, it's a tool, sure, it's doing a lot of things. The best thing that's happened is this pendulum swing back to humanity, to authenticity, to very personable leaders. And this is something that we talked about on Tuesday. I was the keynote speaker at the Cobb County Business Bootcamp Funding Network Summit, and I was brought in to raise the energy with expert panels and breakout sessions, all from bankers and traditionally stiff industry experts. And so I knew that, yes, I was going to teach how to turn resistance into buy in, how to make communication shifts that pull people in and create champions and win support. But I also knew that they were bringing me in for my reputation of bringing a lot. And let me tell you, as somebody who has passed insecurities of being too much, getting to see the difference on paper of being too much or being a lot and bringing a lot being a reason that I won a competitive spot at a very nice, great rate was because of my reputation for being and bringing a lot. Well, this really just felt amazing as somebody who has struggled feeling like too much for a long portion of my life. Of course, as soon as I got into the speaking world and the speaking industry, I started to see, it makes sense that I am so much because of the space that I hold for every audience member, for the capacity I have as a leader to bring energy, yes, but to create it out of thin air. I walked into that room and I'm sorry, it was below freezing in there. The temperature was below freezing in there. And I raised it all the way up to boiling. I connected with every single person in that room and helped guide a transformation. So I created energy out of nothing. I guided energy and transformation, and I transformed energy that was stiff and stale. And let me tell you, that was not an easy feat. Yes, it took a lot for me to do that in the season that I am in right now with a very short turnaround, 2 weeks that I got asked to uh, got invited. Hey, we need a keynote speaker. Some things have fallen through. Can you do it? I said, sure. This isn't an audience that I've necessarily spoken to before. Business owners, yes, but funding, let's go. Let's do it. And if you saw the feedback on my pages, you will see that one of the biggest feedbacks was huge energy, motivating, inspiring, so educational. I needed this. You found your calling. All of these great pieces of feedback. And as hard as it was, I knew that the biggest thing I could do to get an end result like that in the room that I was in with all of these constraints around me was to open my heart and soul on stage and to be the vulnerable leader that we're here to talk about today. And I just got off of a strategy session with my favorite client, and this conversation came up again. She's like, what if I'm just not ready to be that vulnerable with this message and share my core wound from stage in this way? Oh man, and gosh, I have so much to say about this, and that's why I'm here on this live stream. So to end that rabbit hole right there, to tie a bow around that thought, I ended up encouraging her over time to get comfortable sharing that, because the very next thing she said was, I want them to feel seen when I'm speaking. And I'm like, okay, you just contradicted yourself. If you're not ready to use the language of your core wound, as she put it, Well, then there's some differences in languages and maybe some surface level pains that we can talk about while still talking about the same thing and getting you comfortable with being vulnerable. But I had to get on here and talk about how much of a gift vulnerability is when we are brave enough to lead with it. So, why does vulnerability and emotion even have a seat at the table at the workplace? If we're coming from a traditional boomer mentality, we work hard, we do the job, we show up, we go home, that's it. We're order takers, we're go getters, we do the job, and we keep all of our personal business out of it. That was before. We have a global loneliness epidemic, and Americans spend 30% of their lives at work. And so we have this phenomenon where people can be in full rooms of people and not feel like they've connected or feel totally isolated and alone. And it comes down to the barriers that we put up. And as I was sharing on Tuesday, I had a very awesome opportunity come to me from my website. I had the call today. I know now that it's real. I was convinced that this cold outreach that came to my site saying, "We're looking for a leadership and communication trainer in Atlanta. We want to talk to you." I was convinced that it was a scam because we get so many scam messages all the time. And this was a real thing, a real opportunity. And my guard is up. And I think that this is an important point to make because no matter where you are tuning in from and what your role is and who and how you deal with people daily, we're walking around so very guarded. Your direct reports are guarded, your senior leaders are guarded, your buyers are guarded. Everybody is guarded. And sure, maybe that's how we need to be. I have filters on my phone so that the 15 spam messages I get because I picked up once thinking that it was the real bank and it wasn't. And they said, "Ooh, we got a live one. Let's call her back," with infinite numbers every day, spamming her voicemail and her text messages. I mean, it's crazy. So, sure, the barriers help some, they keep us safe and protected. But we need more than that. And so I believe that the future of leadership is not about AI and tech. Those are tools that the future leaders will use. But the future of leadership is far more human than it's ever been before. And vulnerability is the fastest way to break down barriers and get people to open up. Vulnerability opens doors. And it opens doors into somebody else's world. It opens doors to the person that's listening. It gets them to drop their resistance and to trust and connect with you more. And today, trust, attention, and connection, dude, that is the biggest currency out there, dude. It's the biggest currency out there. And it's hard to come by. We don't trust businesses or who they say they are. We don't trust people or who they say they are. We're in this political climate where we don't know what's real, and AI is being used in all kinds of ways to create confusion and mass chaos. We need to come together. We need, as a human need, to belong and to feel seen. And so, if we're taking the 30% of our lives that are spent at work, and we're showing up far more real than we ever have. Well, we're opening things up in them and we're opening things up for ourselves. These great opportunities that have come to me after being so vulnerable, it's not surprising. Vulnerability is so powerful. I've gotten more leads than I've ever had from a talk this Tuesday, and I know it's because of how much I opened my heart. And lastly, the reason to push past all the discomfort of being vulnerable is because the world needs it now more than ever. We have a responsibility as leaders to not just go through the motions and manage and comply, but we want to get engagement. We wanna get, what's the word that I'm thinking of that starts with C? We don't just wanna comply, we want to, contribute. We wanna be motivated to contribute and create places that are more than just these stagnant workplaces with transactional conversations that we go to. So I see us all in March, or is it's still February? In February 2026, I see us all as having a responsibility to lead with more humanity and connection than we ever have before. It's good for us, it's good for them, it's good for the world. But one of the things that I see most often, people are like, okay, you've convinced me to be vulnerable, or maybe on the importance of it. But how am I supposed to be vulnerable without getting lost? And how do I bring an emotion without oversharing? And how do I get people to just listen to me and understand what I'm saying? Well, I've shared it with you guys before. I shared it with everybody on Tuesday. I'm going to share it with you again. It's the story framework, helps you tailor a vulnerable message strategically so that you can talk about work challenges that you've had and use them as a reason for people to do business with you. Strategic vulnerability is where it's at in the business world. And I find a lot of people struggle with it, which is why I've put together the framework for you, because this is what I want to be doing. I want to be helping people feel confident in their communication and understanding how that they can use their words to totally transform interactions. I'm passionate about this for many reasons. One being that I have really just sucked at this in the past. It's been such a labor of love to get to where I am, and I am by no means perfect. I still will say dumb things to my partner all the time and then be like, is that really how you heard it? I'm so sorry. That is not what I meant at all. Feel like such a butthead. And it's because I'm in my perspective of how I feel. And this happens in workplace conversations and business conversations all the time. We're coming from our approach of what we care about, what we think, what we feel, our perspective. And sometimes it makes tension where tension doesn't need to be. And there's plenty of tension in this world. So let's do our best to reduce tension and in many places as we can and take the pain out of communication that doesn't land, communication that's not helpful, communication that's not constructive. And let's start to lean in with the challenges that we've faced along our journey. And hopefully, it'll help inspire our next generation who may get a bad rap for being entitled because they don't know what it's like to have gone through the trenches. All they see, I keep looking for my phone, it's up here, they all they see is the highlight reels and the success stories and how easily things have come for other people through the lens of social media. And so this is why we have a responsibility today as leaders to open up and talk about our growth journey more. I on Tuesday I sat down and had lunch after the keynote, and I'm sitting with all of these business builder veterans who have been around helping business owners for decades. And after being so vulnerable and pouring my heart out on stage, we're sitting around the lunch table and they're asking me questions, and I can do nothing but have no filter and answer transparently. And oh my gosh, you guys, when I got home and the next day, I was in such a vulnerability hangover. I was like, why did you overshare that much to these people who are your client? You should be impressive. And, you shouldn't be talking about the struggles of business ownership and how difficult it is being my age and wanting to be a mother and not having predictable, sustainable financial projections that I feel that I need and I want to feel safe, and how difficult that's been. And there were some tears on both sides of the table talking about things. And it stressed me out a little bit because vulnerability is sucky and scary and terrible, right? But the next day, the email that I got back from the president of this organization was, Christy, your vulnerability made such a strong and positive impression on us. And we'd like to do business with you in this way. In a new way, in a new opportunity. And that was just one of many opportunities that came because of the vulnerability that I led with. So, wherever you're tuning in from, if you feel like you need more, more connection, more sales, more people in your corner, more of your direct reports and engagement and contribution and listening if you feel you need more. Try being strategic with your vulnerability. Open up about a work challenge, something that's challenged you professionally, what you learned from that challenge, and then the steps that you would take to do things differently. This is how you can close the gap for others so they see a realistic perspective of what growth is like. They miss the same setbacks that you have. And your life lessons are mentoring other people to not have to go through the same things by following the steps that you learned from the lesson of your failure. It's so amazing. So I'm going to drop the link. I know I've alluded to it a couple times. I have it. I'm going to drop the link. If you guys feel that you need a little bit of help understanding how to put everything together so that your lived experience turns into a message that moves people, well, I've got you. Click the link. I keep hearing this is way too good to give away for free, but here we are. I'm doing it because it matters. And I want to help everybody have confident communication that lands and resonates and makes the world a better place. So if you have a passion to make the world in a better place, to make the world a better place, you are my people, and I will do everything I can to help you grow. Again, my name is Christy. I love to bridge cultures and generations through communication shifts and help you grow. So I will see you guys next Thursday. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the LinkedIn newsletter where you get a text form of everything we just talked